Hey, everybody, big things ahead, but don't worry, we're not going anywhere. For the past 15 years, Zen Parenting Radio has brought you thoughtful conversations about mindfulness, parenting, compassion, and self awareness, and a bit of pop culture, too. Well, we're ready to modernize.
We'll be exploring the same themes, but from a new direction. As Gen Xers who grew up with pop culture and are now raising kids in it, we've always known that pop culture plays a big role in our relationships and family culture. And it's been a touchstone, a conversation starter, and a way we've stayed connected and made sense of the world. Starting June 1st, you'll hear us talk more about the shows and music we grew up with and what's new now, and how it all reflects our societal values, our blind spots, our potential for growth, and the ways we connect with our children and each other. We'll still be diving into mindfulness, parenting, compassion, and self awareness, but pop culture will be our main entry point.
For example, you might be interested in how MTV shaped our beliefs in parenting, why George Michael's father figure has somehow stayed relevant and even interesting to our kids, and how the True Hollywood story on Robert Downey Jr. remind us what addiction looked like long before he became our kids' hero as Iron Man. We're also making this shift because we believe, especially right now, we all need more reminders of our connection, a bit of optimism and humor, and a historical pop cultural lens to help us remember that we're still in this together and that we're going to be okay.
It's a small shift that means a lot to us. We know that pop culture is a mirror, and when we look at it with curiosity and honesty, we find deeper insight into who we are, what we care about, and how we want to show up in the world. So stay tuned. The title and topics will be new and exciting, and the heart of the show will stay the same. But we think you'll notice a renewed enthusiasm and joy. It's a more modern and genuine approach that reflects who we are today. So get ready for
Zen Pop Parenting.
There's so much more to come.
Here we go. My name's Todd.
This is Cathy.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen Parenting Radio. This is episode number 815. Why listen to Zen Parenting Radio? Because you'll feel outstanding. And always remember our motto, which is the best predictor of a child's well-being, is a parent's self-understanding. That motto is going to get set aside starting June 3rd, sweetie.
Still will be in the heart of what we do. We're never going to lose it. But what are you going to say that's different when we do Zen Pop Parenting?
Whatever you tell me to, Lieutenant Dan.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
And actually, we're already taping shows for it. So we're not just coming up with something. Everything's going to be ready to go.
First one is in the bag, and the second one is about to be recorded in about an hour.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah.
Todd and I are having the best time. So we hope that not only do you listen, obviously you're already subscribed, so you don't have to do anything different, but tell people about it. Like, one thing that Todd and I have been discussing a lot lately is that at least where we are in our stage of parenting and life, we really do still appreciate the deep stuff. We need it. You know, it inspires us, wakes us up, but we also just want to enjoy what we enjoy and have times where we laugh and reminisce and remember and find light in sometimes what our daily news it tends to be and the worries that we have. And Todd and I have just found a lot of light. So we want to spread that light to you, listener.
We're going to laugh and love.
We're going to laugh and love and remember.
Maybe that's what we'll call it. Just a laugh and love. It's easy to remember.
That sign is made fun of now.
Oh, is it?
Light, or it's like live, laugh, love.
Oh, yeah,
it's very like country home.
Yeah.
You know, buy it at Target kind of sign.
Take me home, country road.
But we're kind of talking about that today.
We're going to talk about one of your Substacks, empathy. And we're going to sprinkle in what you did for Mother's Day yesterday as well. I do have a few not housekeeping, but I just want to say thanks to a little bit of good news, because I subscribe to that good newsletter.
Okay.
Good old Pope Francis, who passed away about 2 weeks ago, donated his entire personal bank account to prisoners right before he died. $226,000 this guy had in the bank.
And he gave one of his Pope mobiles to an organization that feeds children.
Yeah.
So they could go around with the Pope mobile and feed children.
And I know it's a well-worn pattern right now on all of the Instagrams and the TikToks and
called
everything.
Social media, babe.
But there's a new pope, and he's from the south side of Chicago, and he is in fact a White Sox fan, which I mean, I can't believe this. And we could talk about this for the next half hour, and we won't. But it's just crazy, insane that we have a pope that's American and that he's from the South Side and that he's a White Sox fan. That's crazy.
Todd, you guys are basically like best friends
Exactly. And well, the fact that they got coverage of this guy
at a
being
Sox game.
well at the World Series, game one of the World Series in 2005, they happened to have him like in the regular broadcast. They have a picture of him.
How'd they find that?
I don't know.
Like, how do you even start?
Probably because somebody knew that because, if you're on television for a World Series, you're gonna be like, oh, there's Joe, my buddy.
Okay.
So like they just kind of remember like, hey, but it's not Joe, it's Pope Bob.
No,
Actually,
Pope Leo.
Pope Leo. He used to be Bob. Robert.
Yeah. Well, what's funny, for those of you who are not from Chicago, you can only imagine what is happening here as far as, hey, my friend lived down the street from his brother whose sister called me once. And I mean, everybody has their own story of like how they are connected to this Pope. And it's been kind of fun because, everybody it's called belonging. It makes us feel like, that he belongs to us and that we belong to him, and there's connection there. It's a very human quality to want to find our interconnectedness with the Pope, which is exactly what you're doing with him being a Sox fan. Because at first, all the memes that were going around were him in Cubs gear.
That's right.
And then all of a sudden, there was a interview with his brother, connection to me, who lives in the town in Florida where my aunt lives.
Which basically means you're best friends with Pope Leo.
Exactly. And his brother said, no, he's a Sox fan.
Yeah, let's be clear.
Obama was also a Sox fan.
That's
everybody.
right.
So we
can use all the help we can get right now.
Very much so. He's going to pray a little extra for his White Sox.
Yeah.
But it is pretty lovely, and I hope that at least from what I've heard from him so far, there is a lot of focus on, focusing on the ministry and taking care of others. And it has a Pope Francis-ish kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not that we have to agree with every single thing that's happening, because I obviously got a lot of texts from people too who were like, but his views on this or views on that. And I know there's a long way to go, especially with the Catholic Church. But
the question is, are we moving in the right direction
Correct.
or the wrong direction? And it seems to be continuing in Pope Francis's, also known as Papa Francesco.
Papa Francesco.
My daughter was in Italy for a semester, and the people that housed her,
her family,
referred to him as Papa Francesco, which is what everybody refers to him, but we just think of him as Pope Francis. So anyways.
But it was beyond that. They loved him. They loved
a picture
Papa.
of him on the fridge.
Yeah, and she would like kiss, and grandma would be like,
revered him.
Loved him. And so we would always call him Papa Francesco. So we were very sad when he died.
Before we talk about your Substack,
yes.
Quick plug for Team Zen.
Yes.
You have a women's group tomorrow.
Yep.
And that is an opportunity to get on Zoom with Cathy and a dozen or so other like-minded or sometimes not so like-minded women, talking about the challenges and the celebrations of being a mom and being a woman. And we also have a Q&A with Dr. John Duffy in about a week. And then you and I are doing something called College is Coming, how to talk with our kids, set expectations, stay connected before and after.
Yeah, those of you who listen to us and you're like, I'm here for the parenting, I'm here for the deep dives into parenting, I'm glad you're here, and we'll continue having those conversations. But if you really want more, Team Zen is our place where we do our deepest parenting work.
Yeah, our heavy lifting.
Our heavy lifting, where we do Q&As and we do talks and we offer workshops, and that is the deep dive into parenting. So if you are if you have a preteen right now or a teenager, or you're launching a kid into college, this is Team Zen is where we're doing that. It's $25 a month. You can,
cancel at
any time. So just come in for a couple months if you want. We don't try and hold you or bribe you. We just want you to come and go.
Yeah.
But hopefully stay, because we have a good time too.
We do.
The crew at Team Zen is kind of stellar.
Yeah.
And
you want to be stellar, get on Team Zen.
Yeah. If you want to feel outstanding and be stellar, come to Team Zen, because they will, if you feel like you're surrounded by people who don't have focus on other people and empathy and an understanding of the world, then you want to come to Team Zen because they're really great people.
So your Substack is called Yes.
Yes, empathy.
Empathy. With all the noise out there suggesting that empathy doesn't work or shouldn't matter, let's remember what we already know. What was your inspiration for writing this wonderful Substack?
Well, I had read something early last week about empathy being demonized. And I'm using that word specifically because it's often interesting that we're talking about the Pope, because it's often related to religious doctrine that empathy is not a good thing for these various reasons. Then I also see business people who I've seen some things on the news, including Elon Musk, who said something to the effect of empathy is Western culture's greatest problem. And then I was listening to Glennon's podcast on Friday, and they had on the woman who, the religious figure who spoke up to Trump during after the inauguration. She did the sermon, or she was the speaker, and all she asked of him was to be merciful, to share mercy, to offer mercy. And then there's a bunch of people telling her that she needed to apologize, when that's like her whole job, is to be that person who says, let's practice mercy. But well, that's beyond the point. And then she was saying how so many people in her world, or in the world of Christianity, not so many people, but that there was a drive to call empathy a sin. And I then started doing some reading, like where this came from, what books, because I teach empathy in my college class, and I have for 13 years, 10 plus years. Like we talk about empathy, and every book that comes out, I tend to, if not read or use in my class, I at least reference it. I try and get kind of the new spin on what people are saying. And it isn't new that people are trying to demonize empathy. There is always this vibe of like, empathy can be bad if, and that's just people trying to get a new viewpoint, right? They're trying to be like, yeah, but have you thought about this? The bottom line, though, is empathy is a good thing.
Yeah.
And anything can be, as Todd always says, even water can be made bad if you drink too much of it, right?
Yeah, you could hyperhydrate and die.
Correct. So there's nothing, things are not black and white. There's all sorts of gray, and there always is. But I wanted to write something about, let's have some clarity here. Like when you think about the word empathy, when you have empathy, what does that mean? And we already know that's a good thing. And Zen Parenting Moment, my big flagship of what I write under, it's called Zen Parenting Moment. And the tagline to it is what we know but tend to forget.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that
this is a perfect
example.
I found some quotes, and I'm going to play them for you.
Okay.
And we're going to see if you can figure out, and they're on empathy.
Okay.
And they're from the movies.
Oh, ooh, I like this.
So let's see if you get this one.
Okay,
I know you've seen this movie.
If there's any kind of magic in this world, it must be in the attempt of understanding someone, sharing something.
Oh, God, I know that voice. Can you give me a year, or is it
90s? We watched this probably right after college. It's about two people falling in love, meeting for the first time.
Oh, I know. Before sunrise.
Very good.
I knew that voice. I'm like, I know it's Julie Delphi.
Nice job.
Mm-hmm.
I got another one here. I don't know if you've seen this, but I think the voice will throw it off.
Okay.
Oh, you're not just saying that to mend our broken hearts, are you? Where are you?
Sounds like a cartoon.
That was Tigger in a very Mary Pooh year.
I would not get that one, even though I do love Tigger.
Now, this is from 1964. You probably have never seen this.
Oh, okay.
But the actor,
Okay.
We must try to understand other people more.
Yes, we should.
Understand cruelty and weakness.
Even that.
It's true.
Any idea whose voice that is?
Gosh, it kind of sounded like Obi-Wan.
That's exactly right.
Is it Alec Guinness?
From a movie called The Fall of the Roman Empire.
Nice.
I have a few more here. Let me see if I can. A lot of these are like old movies. Yeah, that's dumb. Not going to do that one. Not going to do that one. Oh, this one,
Well, why does his life have any less value than yours?
B movie.
His life have any less value than mine? Is that your statement?
I'm just saying all life has value. You don't know what he's capable of feeling.
Very good, sweetie. You got that one.
That's Renee Zellweger doing her best Vanessa.
Yes.
And then that's Putty.
And that's one of our kids' favorite movies, I think.
Oh my gosh. They call it one of their sick movies because we just watched it so much when they were sick that it's ingrained in our brains. And B movie, I think, was a semi-hit, but not a huge hit. But it's got so much funny pop culture in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's funny cameos and such. So I suggest go see B movie.
Last one. Here we go.
What do you think about that fight? I feel every blow. Just like I was being hit myself.
You're never going to get it.
Color Purple?
It says Muhammad Ali in The Greatest. So I think that was maybe his mom saying about what does she think when he's getting hit in the boxing ring.
I thought it was.
So anyways, I just like to have some fun and throw some movies in there. So I didn't mean to distract you from your Substack. So
well, let's just talk a little bit about, because I always like to add some balance here.
Sure.
Bring balance to the force.
Yes, please.
Is that let's understand why people are saying empathy is bad. So then instead of just saying, no, it's good, let's give them this moment and say, here's some of the reasons that people say empathy is not good. Like I said, the majority of it is based in religion. And the belief is that empathy can become sinful when it leads to uncritical acceptance of others' perspectives. What does this mean? That it could compromise your moral judgment if you're empathetic, and that one of the authors calls it a quicksand analogy, that empathy is jumping in and sinking with the person, which right away I will kind of, qualify and say empathy is not about feeling and taking on what another person is feeling. That's not what empathy is. Empathy is the ability to understand what someone is feeling because you have in some way in your life
felt your version of the quicksand.
Exactly. So you don't have to take, and again, part of why I want to talk about this is a hard one understanding for me, because early days of being a therapist, I did do some quicksand, right?
You jumped in with them,
Too
which
much.
left you unable to be able to serve them in the way that they needed to be served.
Correct. Now, understanding what empathy really is going into it and taking it on and processing it through your body. Those of you who've been listening to Zen Parenting a long time, you'll remember that I've said this a lot, is that you can't process other people's stuff through your body. Your body will go, I don't know where to put that. It's like junk food that has no place to go because it's not yours.
Well, and real quick, we talked about a little bit about this, as we were raising our 3 daughters and still are. They have a bad time at school. Something happened at the lunch table. And if we sink into the depths of where they are with them, we're not very, very helpful to them.
And we can't pull them out.
Yeah.
Because we're in the quicksand. I think we used to use like a ladder analogy. Yeah. Like we kind of have to be above it, not above it like what they're experiencing isn't important, because it is. But we have to be strong enough, be stable enough to help pull them out of it.
Yeah.
We have to be like, I can see the bigger picture here. I feel the feelings you're having, I have had before as well. Yeah. And I can sit in the dark with you and empathize with you and listen and allow it to be. I don't need to change it right away.
Without fixing.
But I also am going to be stable enough that when you need some help, I can hold you strongly and not be down in the dumps with you. Another thought here that another person's writing, they said that empathy is manipulating emotions and weakening moral clarity. Again, it's very connected to the theological concerns. They say that excessive empathy can place human feelings above divine commandments. This could lead to sinful behavior under the label of compassion. Now, the things about this is that I always have to go back and be like, what is religion for? What is, this is deep thought, right? Why do we practice spiritual practices, regardless of what it is? My understanding has always been because it's to care for each other.
Sure.
That we are supposed to take care of each other. That, love, Bible scripture better than I do, but like
not much.
love the Lord your God, love your neighbor as yourself. Like everything is about love, right? So
a lot of New Testament right there.
Right. So, but commandments promote justice and fairness in relationships, right? Isn't that the goal? And that loving others is not a way to get ahead, but to build connection and responsibility for others. So the big, deep thought is when empathy is labeled a sin for distorting truth, and I'm putting that in air quotes, is the goal of a divine commandment to protect a doctrine, or is it to protect people?
Depends who you ask.
Right. And this is, I think, where it gets messy. My belief system, and again, is that we're here to connect to each other and to take care of each other. And I feel that my own understanding of God and universe and love is that that's what's implied.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I want to say to everybody is that I am not a theologian, but you
play one on TV.
I play one on TV. I told Todd the other day, we were taking a walk and we were talking about like if we could go back to college, what I would study. And I already know I'd still study psychology. When I say still, I didn't study psychology, but I took a lot of psychology. And I would still study, I would want to study film or pop culture or just cultural studies.
Sure.
And then I'd want to minor in theology. And then I would want to go get my master's degree in social work, just like I already did. Like I would repeat that.
Yeah.
But I have loved being a teacher. Like no shame to my teaching background, because that's what I got my degree in, was elementary education. But what I love now I like talking about theology because I think it's very beautiful. And it's all very interconnected, but I think it gets warped sometimes by if people
Corruption,
don't corrupt
power,
it.
all that good stuff. Yeah, totally. I agree.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. And I don't want to step on your toes, but I just want to highlight a few things from your Substack that I thought was
go ahead.
really good. You talk a little bit about, occasionally I ask Todd how people can watch Star Wars and still think the choices they're making are the good ones. And he always says, everyone thinks they're Luke or Leia, but do they? If people start openly demonizing empathy and uplifting dominance or harm, they aren't siding with the part of the Force that blows up planets.
Then are they siding with the part of the Force?
Then aren't they siding with the part of the Force? And I do think that most people see themselves as the hero in the movie. And I feel like this is an interesting transition to, you wrote a Mother's Day blog for your paid sub. Did I get that?
No, everybody got it.
Oh, everybody got that one. And you talked about, and I used to do this all the time, and this might get us into some, I don't know. I know it'll get me into some dangerous territory, but I'm willing to go there.
Okay.
When our kids were at Six Flags, we're like, if you get lost, go find a mom with a baby.
Yeah, we'd say that all the time.
And
a mom with a stroller.
Mom with a stroller. And I know that there's other people, mostly men in my life, that are gonna be like, hey, we can be as caring and nurturing too. And that is true. But I also think that we have been conditioned that if my daughters are lost, I think that they would be safer going to a mom with a stroller than a dad without a stroller.
Well, and this, I mean, I feel like we did the whole show last year about the man bear thing. Remember that whole controversy?
Right. Yeah. And I don't want to get back into all that.
But why I want to use it, it's not to throw men under the bus at all. We just have to be, again, this is where we have to be kind of literal. It's not about, it's like what I talk about with patriarchy. It's not about individual men. We have to be able to see ourselves and be like, this is not about me. This is about a system. And a system that we have right now, and an experience that a lot of women have had, is they have been hurt or harmed by a man. Many men have been hurt or harmed by a man, correct?
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. So women, if they have ever been hurt physically, emotionally, sexually, then it's not about you, specific man. It's about when I go out in the world, I don't know who is safe and who is not.
Statistically speaking, all that stuff.
Exactly. So once a woman gets to know a man and trusts, it's fine. It's great. Like, this is not about all men. It's about, you have to understand that I would never tell my daughter to go up to a man by himself because I don't know who that man is. A mom with children like, obviously we could split hairs and be like, well, if I saw a dad with a stroller and a dog, but that's not as common. It especially wasn't as common.
Yeah, like if they're
20 years ago.
If my kids are just waiting for a dad with a stroller walking around,
Right.
They might be waiting a little while.
Especially 20 years ago. Now, one thing I have noticed, because I take walks in the morning quite often, and when I see the kids walking to school with their parents, I told Todd a number of times, I'm like, I see so many more dads.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean with the mom, I mean by themselves with the kids.
We're getting there.
So that is changing. But so I think the thing is your friends, Todd, and the men that I know, I trust with my daughters completely.
Of course.
They're lovely human beings.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about strangers, we're going to be much more likely to go to a woman.
Well, because you brought up man versus bear, for some reason I started thinking of villains, because I always trying to think of how can we pull pop culture into this.
Sure.
And I just pulled up the top 20 movie villains of all time.
I bet they're all men.
Well, that was my question. So first of all, who's the number one villain of all time?
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader's number one. And who's number two?
Hannibal Lecter.
Very good. Number two. Number three, they have the Joker from The Dark Knight. Number four, they have Norman Bates. How far down until you think we get to a woman? I pulled up the top 20.
I probably maybe 20.
Any idea who that woman might be?
Maleficent? Let's see. I'm thinking of Charlize. No, that was a real person that she did that movie about. Let me think for a second. Give me a second.
Dude. I'm gonna play a little sound bite that we're playing on Zen Parenting.
What do you mean?
I'm just gonna float a little.
This is from our new show?
This is from our new show.
Okay.
And when we're doing trivia, as you're thinking, sweetie,
yeah. Todd has a good sound.
Are you thinking right now, sweetie?
No, I'm listening.
You got to think.
Okay. I'm thinking of a woman who has been a villain. Can you give me any hints that won't give it away?
Not to brag, but I thought of this person instantly.
You did.
Think of a scary movie.
Like The Ring?
No, think of Stephen King.
Firestarter?
No, think of
Misery. Kathy Bates.
There you go. Kathy Bates. She's number 9.
Okay. That's fair.
Number 10 is Nurse Ratched.
Yes, that's good.
And then we got the Wicked Witch of the West.
Sure. But she really wasn't wicked because we've all seen Wicked.
Now we now know that, don't we? And then Regina George is in there.
Sure, Mean Girls.
And then that's it. Those are all the girls. So just to round out the guys, Norman Bates, Anton Chigurh, who scares the bejesus out of me.
That's Todd's greatest fear is that guy.
From No Country for Old Men. Voldemort.
Sure.
Hans Gruber.
Yeah,
wonderful
he's our
villain.
favorite.
Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Jason didn't make the list, sweetie.
Well, that's because Jason isn't real.
But Michael Myers is.
Yes, you're right. Can we do a 2-minute Michael Myers Jason thing?
Sure.
So I was just actually listening to a podcast about Halloween. I listen to very strange podcasts. And they were talking about the fact that what they really messed up with Michael Myers in Halloween is they shouldn't have kept killing him and bringing him back to life. Michael Myers should have been an energy that they were able to passed along, kind of like it got taught or absorbed. And then it could have been a continuation, kind of like Scream. Right. Scream, it's never the same people.
Right.
It's somebody else trying to be Ghostface. Right. So you're not trying to deal with the whole supernatural fact that this person's been shot, burned, cut up, stabbed, eyes gouged out. It's how are they back? And so they made that mistake because they didn't have a plan. Halloween 1 and 2 are connected, but then 3 was totally different. 4, they tried to do it with the little girl, and then 5 became different, and then H2O, blah, blah, blah. So it's they didn't have a plan. That's my deep thought.
And then what about this guy?
Well, Jason was, sorry to, I'm going to give something away if you haven't seen it. But in the first Friday, I was going to say Friday Night Lights. In the first Friday the 13th.
Is this distracting you?
It's okay. It's the mom. Sorry. Spoiler. at the end of Friday the 13th, Jason jumps out of the water.
Yes, he does. That's a terrifying moment.
And gets the girl.
Yes,
and then all of a sudden, Jason is the killer. But he was already dead. He had drowned a long time ago. So you're already jumping into a supernatural kind of thing. The mom was super interesting. Friday the 13th, part 1. Not saying it's a great movie, but the concept was pretty scary and good.
That's right.
That mom was creepy as
Yes, she was.
As hell.
As all get out. The other villains are Thanos.
Oh, good one, yeah.
Sauron from Lord of the Rings, which I think I've only seen one of those on a plane.
Okay.
Tommy DeVito from Goodfellas.
Like Joe Pesci's character?
Hey, Spider, yeah. Jack Torrance from The Shining.
Sure.
The Alien. It just says The Alien.
Yeah, but
Gollum from Lord of the Rings. Kylo Ren. Scar.
See, this gets a little murky. I was even going to say that a few of those going way back get a little murky because, like, okay, Thanos is a bad guy. Don't get me wrong. The snap, everything, whatever. But everybody has this deep reason why they're doing what they're doing. All villains do. Like, the reason the Joker is the scariest villain is because, and he's number 3, is that he didn't want to prove anything. He just wanted to be chaotic, right? And that's creepy because, you know, like Hans Gruber, well, he just wanted money. He was greedy. He tried to pretend that he was doing it for other reasons, but he wasn't. He admitted it at the end. He's like, I'm just making all this up. But everybody has these deep reasons, right? Why they do what they do. It doesn't make it okay.
Have my boy here pull your head off.
How about a magic trick? I'm going to make this pencil disappear. Oh, it's...
That's disgusting. I know exactly what happened.
He might be one of the best. He's not better than Darth Vader, but there's a reason he's number 3. He's such a good, creepy guy.
You know, Michelle Williams is doing a new show called Dying for Sex. And if anyone hasn't listened to the podcast Dying for Sex, you should. It's excellent. It's a true story. The woman who made it, you know, it's about her. And then Michelle Williams listened to the podcast and then ended up doing a show. It's her and Jenny Slate. And I was just listening to an interview with her. I think it was on NPR. And they asked her about Heath Ledger. And she doesn't talk about that very much. That's been kind of off limits for however many years because they have a daughter together. But it was really lovely. It's NPR, so they're not trying to get a gotcha moment or anything. Right. And you know who she said moved in with her and like made their house light again? I thought this was so interesting, these connections in Hollywood. Jeremy Strong.
Oh, wow.
They were not romantically linked. They are best friends.
Oh, wow.
But she said he moved in and what did she say? That he would say that their house was camp awesome. And he would just try and keep everything light and fun and make Matilda's life, that's their daughter, Heath Ledger and Michelle Williams, make their life go on. He was just there to help them transition. And I just feel like Jeremy Strong gets a bad rap for being such a method actor.
Yeah, he's a little different.
So I really like that.
I decided to flip the coin on the villains and just ask about the top 20 movie protagonists of all time.
Okay.
Any guesses, male or female?
I know I know some females in there for sure. I'm sure Katniss Everdeen is in there from the Hunger Games. I think number 1 would probably be, are we talking Luke Skywalker?
No, think of your aunt.
Okay, so we're talking, think of my aunt.
Yeah, just think of black and white movies.
Oh, like Casablanca?
Atticus Finch, sweetie.
Oh, To Kill, yeah, of course.
And then we got Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, okay.
Indiana Jones.
Great.
Andy Dufresne.
Oh, yes.
Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Rocky Balboa. No women so far.
Okay.
And now we have our first woman. I've never even seen this movie. I'm embarrassed to say.
What?
Ellen Ripley. Do you know who she is?
Yeah, that's Alien.
Yeah. Have you seen all those?
I've seen the first one I've seen more than one. I think I've seen 2 or 3. But Ripley is in the first. I feel like she was a little like Jamie Lee Curtis, like she skipped a few. Am I right or wrong?
But she does come back, I think, eventually. Any other female protagonists you can think of?
Katniss.
Yeah, she's not in here, but she deserves to be in there. Anybody else?
Gosh, it's so hard to do every single movie.
It's an unfair question. Clarice.
What about Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, she's not in here, but Clarice.
Clarice.
Aaron Brockovich.
Yes, good one.
I've never heard of this person. Amelia Poulain from Amelia.
Amelia. It's not Amelia. I think it's Amelie.
Oh, Amelie. Yeah, you're probably right. And then Elizabeth Bennet from Pride and Prejudice.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So anyways, just said to have some fun there.
Okay. So can we go back to kind of the history of empathy and just, I want to kind of be done with the part where empathy is a problem and talk about why empathy is helpful. So to summarize why people think empathy is a problem, there's a belief that the quicksand theory, the idea that it somehow takes us away from commandments and that it somehow makes us weak. What I would respond to that, though, is, are we policing behavior with that idea, especially of marginalized groups? Are we trying to uphold a certain hierarchy with that idea, privileging people who are creating those rules, silencing any kind of dissent? Like, this is a big part of my understanding because I do a lot of, reading about cults and all that kind of thing, as I've said before. And, the whole idea of we're not going to be empathetic or care about these people because that keeps people from going against the leader.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then discouraging empathy, it just doesn't then you don't challenge the status quo, right?
Sure.
So why empathy is good, I think, is for more obvious reasons. It's how we care about people. It's how we take care of people. And it's how we build connection, which is why we're here.
Yeah.
I have done, I'm sure people could challenge me in some ways about their beliefs because everyone has their own. But my belief system is someone who has studied a lot of self-help and psychology and therapeutic, ways of experiencing the world and psychoanalytic thought, is that we're here for connection. That's why we're here. So with that understanding, being empathetic and tuning into others and supporting them, that's the whole purpose. So it allows us, and again, you're not supposed to fix other people's problems.
No.
The whole idea is saying, I'm here, you're not alone. That's all.
Feeling with someone is more powerful than fixing them.
Correct.
Right.
But just being there and being like, yep.
Yeah.
And this, and occasionally I depends on the person I'm with, how far I'll go into my own story, or I've been there before. I have two girlfriends right now who are really going through it with their moms. Going through it, meaning their moms are, getting hospital care, or one of my friends, her mom has dementia. And obviously I've experienced these things in my life with my mom and dad. So I, first of all, listen and hear their story. And then I often say something like, oh, I remember that, when I was in the hospital, or here's what we heard. We can relate our story as long as we're not trying to make ourselves the center of the story. That's where people tend to go wrong with this, is when they're sharing of themselves, they're doing it in a way where they then start to, elevate their story above the person who's sharing.
Well, and it's a tricky balance. I've shared this story a few times, but one of my friends is a police officer and he had a really bad day at work. And I said something, and this is the opposite extreme. I'd be like, oh, dude, I can't even imagine that. Which
right.
is
And that's not helpful.
A good thing.
No.
So you don't want to be so in it, in that you're telling now all of a sudden becomes about you. And at the same time, you don't want to completely separate yourself from it, like I did that day with my friend.
Well, in Brene Brown's research about empathy, because lots of people have done research, she's just one of them. She says that what you just said was sympathy. So she differentiates empathy and sympathy. And sympathy is where you stand outside of it.
Yep.
And you do a woo. I can't even imagine that happening, or, oh, I wouldn't know what to do, or, God bless you, or bless your heart. It's so separate that person actually ends up feeling more alone.
The question is, why do we call them sympathy cards? Because it doesn't seem like a lot of good things happen from sympathy.
Yeah. Well, and interesting, these people who, the authors that I was talking about before, who write about sympathy or empathy being a problem, they think sympathy is the right thing to do, which is stand outside of it so you don't get sucked in.
Yeah.
So the issue we have here, and this is an issue with all sorts of topics, is semantics.
Yep.
What do we mean by these words? And I really do tend to, understanding all of Brene Brown's research, because her research is built on other people's research. It's not like it's brand new. It's that sympathy is too external.
Yeah.
And sending a sympathy card is lovely, but it's a kind of an interesting, oftentimes it says things that's not very helpful. It's not your writing, and it keeps you from actually having to touch the pain.
And I'm not saying I'm right, but we did a lot of Brene work and read the books and watched the videos. And my understanding of sympathy in a nutshell is me saying to somebody, it sucks to be you.
Basically.
Like that's what sympathy is.
I think that's it.
So anyways.
And empathy is feeling with someone, not taking on someone's pain. It's about feeling with them. So it's a deep listening. There's some vulnerability in it because you're willing to let down a little bit and be like, I'm here with you, and not try and keep this like, I don't know if the word stoic is right, but like this outsider perspective. You have to connect with someone. A lot of the statements that people talk about with this kind of empathy is, I don't even know what to say, but I'm glad you told me, or I'm going to be right here with you, or keep going, I'm listening. Like maintaining your ability to be with that person. And the sympathy aspect, like you said, you had a good description. And a lot of times people say things like, well, at least you didn't have this experience, or at least this worked out.
Oh, your mom died. At least your dad's still alive.
Correct. That kind of stuff where you're trying to like make
Whenever
it
you're
better.
saying at least, that's not a good idea.
Yeah. And her, like, Brene Brown's final conclusion is empathy fuels connection, sympathy drives disconnection.
Oh.
So again, coming back to why empathy is a good thing, connection, like what this podcast, Zen Parenting Radio, we started this, however many years ago, 15 years ago, all based on connection.
Yep.
Like this, when we're raising our kids, when Todd and I started, our kids were little. What was our goal? Always stay connected.
Yeah.
Did we have disconnection? Of course.
Yeah.
But then what's the goal? Find ways to connect in a new way.
Yeah. How do we reconnect?
How do we reconnect?
How do we repair something that we did wrong?
So Richard Rohr, right? Repair. No, what is it? His three things.
It is, I was gonna say connection, disconnection, reconnection.
Close.
Yeah.
We're
like that.
almost there. But I'll look it up because it's that important. But I kind of feel like it's not about always having connection.
Right.
It's about understanding that that's what we want to get back to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel complete.
Okay.
Do you have anything else that you want to make sure that you shared on this podcast?
I
Other
have
than
to
Richard Rohr's thing that we can't remember?
I have to do the three things.
Yeah.
How do I find it?
I don't know. You want me to look? While
Yeah,
everybody's
you look.
listening?
Yeah, while everybody's listening to it. No, here it is. Found it. Sorry, brains have to be stimulated. Order.
Yeah, there you go.
Disorder.
Reorder. Oh.
I've put it in every book I've written. I just can't keep it in my head.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of that we have order and that things fall apart. We have disorder.
Which is totally normal. Right.
And then we have reorder. We, as our kids are growing and changing, as we are growing and changing, the whole idea of growth and change is something is shifting.
Yeah.
So what we consider to be orderly is not orderly anymore. Yeah. Like when our kids, like I loved the beginning of this year. I had like this sense of, I was like, everything feels kind of normal because JC was a senior at college. Cameron was going back to a school she had already been to, so there was nothing new. And Skylar was going to be a junior in high school, so everyone was like, it was still new. There was going to be some disorder, but for the most part,
wasn't a big transition.
It wasn't a huge transition. Whereas next year, Cameron or Skylar's going to be a senior. JC just graduated. Cameron's going to have a little more time, but there's like when that change is coming, I can feel it, and it's normal. But I have to put a lot of my attention toward reorder. Yeah. Like, how do I find a way to reconnect? How do I find a way to, make sure that everybody's doing okay? Let me just make sure that there's nothing else I want to say, Todd.
All right, babe.
I don't think so. I think that we're good. So empathy, you guys, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Obviously we don't want to get caught in the quicksand. We'll take that as good advice. We don't want to go down, the hole with people, but if we can maintain a sense of ourselves and support the people we love, there's nothing more beautiful.
And I want to say thank you to Jeremy Kraft. He's a bald-headed beauty. He is a general contractor. He does a lot of painting and remodeling in the Chicagoland area. If you're thinking about doing anything and you happen to live in the Chicagoland area, give him a call, 630-956-1800. And his website is avidco.net. Keep trucking. See you guys next Tuesday. Bye.